Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the League of Europe Formula 1 YouTube channel for round 3 of the Division 3 season. My name is Aidan Carter, otherwise known as Carmentis. I'll be taking you through Division 3 proceedings as always, and as always, joining me in the comments box today is Dylan. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing good. How are you, Aidan?
Yeah, I'm doing very well, thank you. Looking forward to round 3 of the championship. It feels like this season's been going on forever, and we're only on round 3. We've come to obviously a brand new track to the calendar for a lot of the drivers, brand new track as well, round 3 at Vietnam. So coming into this round, what are you looking forward to?
I'm actually quite excited for this race. Hopefully, it's going to be some close battling. It's going to be fun. It's a new track for everyone, so hopefully the gaps will be quite close together.
Absolutely, yeah. So far this season, it has been a relatively close division. There's been a few surprise performances, but the main people that we've seen so far this season have finished at the front, and it's been kind of a regular occurrence for a lot of the people to be at the front of the field. So taking pole position in both races so far this season has been Hardy. So do you think Hardy can continue that run today?
Yeah, I've seen him do a couple of laps around this track, and he is pretty fast. So I'll be surprised if he doesn't put it on pole again this week. Make it 3 in a row.
Absolutely, yeah, 3 in a row for Hardy. That would be a great feat. Just going into the driver's standings before we go into today's race. Yorno leads the way after 2 podium finishes so far this season, a first and a third. He leads the championship ahead of Caesar, who's also had 2 podium finishes, 2 second places so far this season. So both drivers have had a very consistent start to the season. XL Hardy is in third after winning last time out. He obviously did not finish, unfortunately, in Australia at the first round. B Morgan is fourth, and then it's Eduk and Damon equal fifth in the standings. Ahead of Paul in seventh, J Cole eighth, Mark ninth. Black Mamba rounds off the top 10, having not started last race and this race either. Below that, Super Gamer, after his first event last time out, what could have been really for him, he's 11th in the standings on 6 points, ahead of YHYY. Stumpy, J-Luke, Bree and Storm round off the points finishers. People that haven't finished so far this season are Tun, Callum, Pease and Pelly. All have shown relatively decent pace at points they've raced so far this season, but none of them have been able really to finish or finish in the points. So looking at the people especially that we haven't had, that haven't scored so far, is there anyone there that really shocks you?
Yeah, Callum, of course. Last season he was moved down from D2 to D3, and immediately he had a big impact in the races because he was consistently top 5, and seeing him like P17, I think, in the championship standings is quite surprising, to be honest.
Absolutely, yeah. It's not like he's lacked any pace so far this season. He has shown good pace so far, but it's just for some reason or another not come together for him so far this season. He's had 2 DNFs, so he's not even finished either of the first 2 races. For me, same with Pelly. Pelly's shown really, really good pace in both races. He qualified third on the grid in Australia. Didn't quite qualify so far up in Bahrain, but still had a pretty decent race. But he in the second McLaren just hasn't been able to finish a race so far, has he?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit disappointing. I think he definitely has the pace if he hooks it all up in the quali, but race pace is a little bit inconsistent. Can't quite keep up with the guys ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Just looking at the opposite end of the standings now, it's obviously Yorno and Caesar have a bit of a gap out front. It's Yorno leading by 4 points, and then there's another 11-point gap back to Hardy in third place. Those two so far this season, Yorno's obviously come under a little bit of speculation in the first 2 races with some aggressive driving, but nothing's really come of any investigations that we've had into Yorno's driving. So, do you think Yorno's already got into D3's head?
Well, to be honest, he both races he had one in first or second lap and had an incident. I think in Bahrain he spun like in turn 4 on his own, and he was outside the points. And to come back to finish P3 is still incredible. Like, for example, like the exact same thing happened in Australia. Lap 1, bottom of the top 10, and still managed to win the race. So even if things go the wrong way for Yorno, he still has a chance to make up positions.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's seemingly caught a few people off guard. Obviously, Yorno's new to D3 this season, and he's shown really, really good pace. Caesar likewise as well. Caesar's had 2 second-place finishes so far this season, but it's really been qualifying that's let him down so far, hasn't it?
Yeah, in Australia he joined the session late, so he couldn't get a quali lap in. But I think he, with 1 quali lap in Bahrain, he qualified P5, I believe, and still finished P2 of course in the race, which is just incredible. And if he keeps it going, he might have a good title shot.
Absolutely, yeah. Just looking, obviously we've spoken about Hardy's pace around this track. We know that coming into this event, he is probably the favourite to win here, just based off what we've seen in the week. Is there anyone else that you think could spring a surprise today?
I think Total Peace, of course, with his quali pace, as we've seen. Oh no, Total Peace was the one who got pole position in Bahrain.
He was, yeah. Hardy was on the front row. Hardy was second on the grid. He's got
Yeah.
pole position at the very end of the session. You are right. Apologies, I've already got something wrong.
Peace's quali pace is insane, so you shouldn't write Total Peace off. Same for J. Cole. It's also quite good in quali. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what is your top 3 position.
I think honestly, it's like you said at the start of the stream. It's so hard to bet against Hardy in this one because of the pace we've seen from him so far this week. J. Cole as well, and I think Caesar. I've commentated over a Vietnam race that Caesar and Mark both took part in TTML a couple of weeks ago actually, and both of those drivers. I don't know if Mark is here today or not. I didn't actually see him. I don't think he is, but yeah, Caesar drove in the Renault in that race, and it was in the full wet conditions at Vietnam. And to say that he dominated that race is a bit of an understatement. He didn't really come under any pressure at any point. So, and there's people obviously in that race that we know from other divisions in this league. So, I think Caesar could once again maybe challenge for another podium.
Yeah, and especially now that he has an actual full quali session, this might be interesting to see where he can qualify.
Absolutely, yeah. As we go out then for the first the first round of qualifying laps in this qualifying session, it's one of the Williams that's going to be first out onto the track. That's either J-Luke or Supergamer. Supergamer is TDB, by the way, just a heads up. J-Luke is the first person out onto the track at Vietnam here. Just key things to look out for with this track. So many places to get the lap wrong here, isn't there? So many really, really long corners that can either catch you out on traction or catch you out in the braking zone.
Yeah, it's a really difficult track to hook everything up, especially in Sector 1 and Sector 2. It's just incredibly close, and you really have to maximize the track to get the most out of the lap time. And especially here, turn 5 and 6, you can really cut the both corners to gain the extra lap time. It's going to be interesting to see if people actually use it.
Absolutely, yeah. See if people are able to do that and get it absolutely right. Another thing to remember going into this event, we have got some track limits to look out for. So on the exit of turn 2, it is possible to run over the white line on the exit of turn 2 before turn 3 and gain a bit of speed and time. That has been disallowed for this weekend. So if we see anyone going more than 4 wheels, well, I say more than 4 wheels, there's only 4 wheels on a car. If you see 4 wheels going over the white line on the exit of turn 2, then that is deemed an exceeded track limits. And we do have some pretty strict track limits rules for this race, so it's 1 place penalty and 5 penalty points for every time that someone is seen to do it on purpose to gain some sort of advantage, and that counts for qualifying as well. So that's one thing to look out for, and I imagine that it's pretty going to catch some people out, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is, because it's so easy to go wide into that corner. Just it's going to be very difficult. You really have to hook up the turn 2 in order to get turn 3 right, and just going a little bit wide or not taking the right gear is just it's crucial.
Absolutely, yeah. So we ride on board then with J-Luke as he goes down into turn 1. He's going to be the first person to set lap in this qualifying session, and already far too wide of the apex, and runs over the exit curb of turn 2 and has invalidated his time already. So first qualifying lap in. J-Luke didn't even get through turn 1 cleanly, he's already invalidated. So we'll ride on board with one of the Alpha Tauris further behind. That will be Damon. He's on his first lap. He sticks within the track limits, but gets a little bit too eager on the power through turn 3. Compromises the line through turn 4. Now on to the first of the DRS zones on the track. As he comes to the end of the first sector, look for a low 25 to be a competitive first sector, and it's a 25.6, so we're definitely going to see that beaten today as he goes into the chicane. Stays well away from the inside curb on the first part, so there's definitely more time in the lap there. Now through the long left-hander before the back straight, gets it nice and tight for the exit to straighten that kink out as much as possible before the isn't straight, we'll call it, an incredibly long straight that curves throughout. It's actually, because of the curving in the straight, it is actually very, very difficult to overtake here, and it can catch you out. We saw that in the Formula 2 race in the week. It's very easy to get caught out trying to overtake someone on both sides coming down to the straight. As he brakes for the hairpin at the end, a very, very tight hairpin here into first gear. Gets it nicely stopped and round on the exit of the corner as well. Nice on the traction on the exit, keeps it right by the wall as it comes to the end of the second sector. By the end of the second sector, it's 1 minute 6 flat, so a bit more of a competitive middle sector from Damon as he comes into the final sector now. Based on Monaco, this first part of the S section through here, and then it changes into almost a street version of Japan as we come to the end of the third sector. It gets tighter and tighter as you go along. Coming up now to the penultimate corner, a little bit too much curb on the inside there, far too fast into the corner. It's actually hit the wall on the inside and has invalidated his lap, so Damon won't be setting a qualifying lap there. So that's 2 people now that have invalidated their runs. It's going to be one of the Haas cars further behind. It's only a 35.2 in the end, but obviously Damon hitting the wall on that lap. So we're right on board with Ton, who's coming through. It's actually B. Morgan coming to the last corner. It's a 1 minute 6.8 for him by the end of the second sector, so he's way down. Only a 35.6 from B. Morgan, immediately beaten by Ton, who goes 9/10 of a second faster, and then Yorno beats that by a further half a second. So Yorno immediately in front of the field, but a 34.2 actually just beaten by Supergamer, who does a 34 flat. A 34 flat, a good banker lap for Supergamer, and then that's immediately beaten. Look at that lap from Hardy.
Jeez.
Wow, first lap in the session, a 33.384, 7/10 clear of the rest of the field. I think, obviously, we said that he's going to be one to look out for, but that is blowing everyone else out of the water. That is an incredible time.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. 33.3 as a banker lap time is incredible. Even that's probably good enough for Paul already.
Honestly, yeah. It's gonna be hard for a lot of people to get close to that. Other people that set lap times, Bree's gone into 4th on a 34.5. Pelly's only done a 36.2, and he's picked up front wing damage somewhere, so he's obviously made a mistake somewhere around the lap. We've got one of the racing points coming around the lap. That's actually J. Cole on an out lap. He's running a little bit out of sync with everyone else. He's just coming to start his lap, so we'll ride with him. But for a first lap in the session, I know we've already said it, but for a first lap in the session, that is absolutely incredible for Hardy, who, despite not having the best Australia race, is in the form of his life at the moment.
Yes, of course, he was the fastest guy in the race around Bahrain, and now he's really putting the D3 field on their toes, really, with that pace. That is an incredible lap to start out the session, and could even go faster.
Absolutely, yeah, we could see him go faster in this session, so we have to wait out and see if he can do that. We'll ride with J. Cole as he goes around the lap then at the end of the first sector. 25.3, so a pretty competitive first sector from J. Cole into the chicane. That's more like it there. Cutting the two corners is very easy to do and get away with. He doesn't invalidate, so he's maximised that chicane quite nicely. Here's J. Cole as he comes now onto the back straight. A very, very long run down towards the hairpin. See what his straight line speed is. That's kind of one thing to look out for at this track as well, is it's pretty much really a track where setup can be compromised. You can run lower wings for the momentum really down this straight, but it can really cost you in the first and third sectors. Or you can run the opposite and run a higher downforce package, and it can run really nicely in the first and third sectors, but you could be very, very slow in a straight line. See what J. Cole's time is. He comes to the end of the second sector. He wants to be under a 1:06 flat, really, to be right at the front, and it's a 1:05.6. So actually, this is looking like a pretty decent lap from the other racing point. This looks like it could be set to go into second place on the grid, so we could already have a racing point 1-2 at the end of the 11th, with 11 minutes to go, really, in qualifying. Here he comes through the third sector, nice and neat, hooks it on the inside curve there, coming up towards the penultimate corner now, runs it a bit wide, cuts back towards the wall for the longest, the more square route through the penultimate corner, short shifts early, coming into the final corner. So easy to hit the wall on both sides here, but it's nice and neat from J. Cole. He crosses the line. Next man into 33s is the other racing point. It's a 33.7, a good lap from J. Cole, but still 3/10 slower than Hardy.
Yeah, I think they were both equal through the first and second sector, but I think Hardy had the edge in the final sector, clearing him by 3/10, and that's yeah. That was incredible, because J. Cole did a 28 flat, almost a 28.1 in the final sector, and Hardy did a 28.7, a very low 27.7. That is
wow.
That's really good.
That is a really, really good lap time. Hardy just leaving the pits now to start his second run. We've got Storm out on a lap. He's on the medium tyre, so he's gone for something a little bit different, but this lap time hasn't looked so competitive so far from him. We see this a lot, though, from Storm in qualifying. He runs the mediums early in the session and then goes to a set of softs later on, maybe to save a set of soft tyres for the race. Obviously, there are quite a mix of strategies around here as he crosses the line with a 36.9. That's the slowest time so far, but obviously on a step harder tyres. I imagine he'll gain about a second on that time, maybe a bit more than that around this track, just based on the length of the track. See who else is on the lap. We have had Mark and Danny Boy join the lobby, meanwhile, while J. Cole was on his lap, so hopefully they can join in and get their qualifying underway. Mark definitely will want to get his qualifying under the way. Mark has had a relatively decent start to the season in terms of pace, but the races for Mark really haven't gone well for him so far, have they?
Yeah, he's been a little bit unlucky during the race, unfortunately, and well, his pace is promising. If he needs to be consistent in the race and trying to keep the car out of incidents, out of the wall, and I think he'll do quite well if he does that.
Absolutely, yeah. Meanwhile, J-Luke goes into P5 with a 34.3. That's more like it from J-Luke. J-Luke had a really, really good pre-season, but he just hasn't really been able to match that pace since the pre-season races. He's been struggling so far this season, but up into fifth, that's more like it for him. Pease, I believe, on the Mercedes is on a lap. He's in the final sector, 1:05.8 by the end of the second sector. So again, a competitive time here from Pease. This looks like it could go into the top three. Let's see what his final sector is like in that Mercedes. Comes around the final corner. We've just had another person finish a lap time. That's YHYY, who's just gone 6th in the Ferrari, a 34.4 for him. Here comes Pease to the line. Pease now goes second with a good final sector, about 2/10 faster than J. Cole's final sector. I think probably matched Hardy in the final sector. He goes second place now, just ahead of J. Cole, but again, still over 3/10 of a second behind Hardy. Hardy's come back into the pit lane and actually just noticed it started raining.
It has. Wow.
Wow. So the
Okay.
people that haven't set a lap time yet, they are going to be massively compromised here. Damon's on a lap now, so he's just going to get his lap time in, I think, before the rain really starts to play some sort of factor in terms of the track grip. Mark is on a lap, but he's invalidated already, so he's not going to be setting a lap time. Second in the championship, Caesar's not even left the pit lane yet. He's 14th. And it is still raining. Stumpy's also not left the pit lane, so they're going to be massively compromised by the conditions. Damon, a 1 minute 5.9 by the end of the second sector. Again, looking competitive for him. Damon will be frustrated so far that he's qualified 5th in both races. I think he wants to get a bit higher than that. I think he thinks he could have gone a bit better in Bahrain. Obviously, won on track, but not based on penalties. Here he comes into the final part of the lap. He hit the wall here on his first one. He stays well away from it this time into the penultimate corner. Up short shifts up into third and then up into fourth gear just before the final corner, keeps it away from the wall. It's just like, looks like he's going to just beat the worst of the conditions. He goes 4th fastest, a 34 flat, just ahead of Super Gamer, but good enough time to recover from the mistake in the early part of qualifying. But maybe the conditions are already starting to affect people, and that could be why Damon's time maybe isn't quite at the front, as Yorno actually just improves and goes P4, so Damon's back into his favourite spot of P5. Yorno does a 33.997, a good lap from Yorno, but again, still, Hardy is so far out in front, and it looks like he's played this very, very well, because he's set his lap time very early on, and now the rain's coming, so it's going to be even harder for anyone to get close to that time.
Yes, and again, Banker is really important. That's a ton. Unfortunately, hits the wall in the final corner and does it 35-1. Doesn't improve on his lap time, and yeah, because of the rain, it's going to be, yeah, the bankers are going to be very important, because now Hardy is on pole, of course, with the 33, and with the rain, I don't see anyone improving on that.
Absolutely not. No, we've got Brie on a lap at the moment. He's about a 10th.5 up on his personal best. Let's see what his final sector's like. This isn't going to challenge the front of the field at the moment, this lap time, but it could get him a bit higher up into the top 10, maybe around the likes of YHYY. Here he comes round the final corner. He comes up to cross the line. It's a 34.3, so he improves a bit in the final sector. He goes just above of Jay Luke, so he goes into 7th place. But again, there's a few gaps forming here, really, isn't there? Hardy's out on his own at the front, and then there's a bit of a gap back to Pease and J-Cole, and then another gap back to Yorno, Damon, and Super Gamer. Almost like the field has kind of split into little packs here.
Yeah, it's very close together between the P4 and P6, and of course the rain might be a little bit of an influence, because Damon, of course, had his lap time during the rain, and yeah, it's same for Brie actually. So it could just be because of the wet weather. The gaps might be a little bit bigger than we initially anticipated.
Absolutely, yeah. We've got Caesar. He's finally left the pit lane, so he's on an out lap. Stumpy still hasn't left the pit lane in the Alfa Romeo. He's currently 14th, so he's not going to be improving on that unless he gets out onto the track and sets a time. We've got Caesar out on the track. Danny Boy's just coming to start a lap in the Ferrari. We've got Mark coming up to start a lap as well, I believe. Actually, he's just left the pit lane. He's on an out lap at the moment by the looks of things. So it's Danny Boy, the next one really at the back of the field, that needs to make an improvement. Danny Boy is in it in Formula 2. He joins sessions late, but when he's in the car, he's actually pretty fast. We haven't really seen much of Danny Boy so far this season. But let's see what he can do as he comes down to the end of the first sector. What's his first sector time going to be? It already looks like the track conditions are massively affecting a 26.1. That's not really competitive enough. He's almost a second off, really, what you need to be doing. And he runs too wide at the chicane. So already looks like the conditions are playing havoc, because he's sliding massively there through the left-hander. It's sort of, the track's past its point, and it's track's past its best at this point. I don't really see anyone improving from now on.
Yeah, and I don't see people inside the top 6 going out again, because yeah, the track conditions are getting worse every single second, and now Danny Boy goes extremely wide to there. Then the track limit, or the track conditions are really
1 minute 7.1 by the end of the second sector is way off. He's 1.5 seconds down at the moment on what the likes of Pease and Hardy were doing by that time in the lap. So this lap time at the moment could get him ahead of Storm. Storm obviously did his lap time on the medium tyres, but any higher than 13th will be a miracle for the Ferrari man as he comes round to the final 2 corners. Let's see where he goes. Again, really struggling with understeer there, and then sliding on the exit of the corner, has absolutely no traction. Comes around the final corner, already past Hardy's time by the time he gets to the final corner. 35.4, he goes 12th, he goes ahead of Pelly as well. But Pelly and Storm haven't set representative lap times themselves either. Storm actually improves, he goes on to 34.9, he goes up into 13th place ahead of Pelly, but that's just the maximum where people can go now. There's not really any room, and that is going to be massively costly for Caesar, who is currently second in the championship standings, currently running down in 16th with no lap time set. He didn't leave the garage until, well, about 3 minutes ago, so he's left it till the last moment and has not paid off for him once again. It comes to the end of the second sector, actually a 1:06 flat, so even in the wetter and damper conditions, Caesar's lap time is looking very, very competitive. So it's a shame that he hasn't gone out earlier, because it looks like he could be right at the front. Let's see where he goes with this lap time. I'll be shocked if he can get within the top 5 with this lap time on these conditions. Comes to the final corner. This is where he's really going to be losing the most time, is in the final sector in the high-speed stuff. As he comes now around the final corner, keeps it well away from the wall on both sides, crosses, actually hits the wall on the exit, and it's a 34.2. He goes P7 in these conditions. That's a great lap from him. Super Gamer's going to cross the line, and he just misses out on improving on his time by 0.02 of a second. So these two, despite the conditions, are actually slightly, almost improving on their times. They're right on the bubble at the moment.
Yeah, I expected the track conditions to actually play a bigger role, because that's a great lap from Caesar, even in these wet conditions. And Mark,
yeah, well, goes P7. Yeah, these two, when I commentated over these two at the Vietnam race a couple of weeks ago, these two were inseparable in terms of qualifying and race pace. So I'm not surprised to see them together again, but I think it's just a shame that they've left it so late, because even if they are doing times that will put them in the mid-reaches of the top 10, it still looks like the track conditions are going to be affecting them, and they could have been even further up at this point.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of weather it is going to be in the race, because might actually be wet in the race or dry. We actually don't know, so let us know in the comments. But yeah, this is incredible. Mark just hit the wall on turns.
I think he was just getting out of the way of Damon, actually. I was just watching Damon from the helicopter cam. I think Mark just kind of realised at the last moment that Damon was on a lap and darted out of the way and had to hit the wall in the process. But Damon, 2/10 down in the first sector, but looked very committed through the chicane. So wonder whether he's going to be improving on this lap or not as he comes towards the end of the second sector. Let's see if he can improve on P5. Sure, obviously, we knowing Damon, he won't be very happy that it'll be P5 for the third race in a row. But here he comes now up to the end of the second sector. Let's see whether he is improving. It's over 1:06. He's 0.7 of a second down, so he will not be improving on this time. He cannot make up that time, and he's actually hit the wall in the final sector, so Damon won't be improving on his time. Let's see if anyone else is improving. Yorno's slightly up in the first sector. He's actually 0.2 up by the end of the second, so Yorno's improving his time, which is good to see. To see whether he can challenge the likes of Jayco and Pease for that front row. Here he comes through the final sector. We've got the two Haas cars in front of him on the road. B. Morgan and Ton. They're currently 12th and 13th. Again, a really difficult qualifying session for the Haas cars. Damon's retired from the session in the pit lane. One of the Haas cars comes up to the line. That was Ton, but Ton didn't improve on 13th place. Here comes B. Morgan to the line. Does he improve on 12th? No, he doesn't. So they both stay where they are. Yorno around the final corner. Lost all of the time he gained in the final sector. Lost exactly 0.2 of a second in the final sector. Only improved by 7 thousandths. It does look like the final sector is where people are really struggling for grip at the moment.
Yeah, and Total Peace is on or never mind, he's just about his lap time. But yeah, is now actually the time where the dry tires are worse than in normal race conditions? Because this is, yeah, it's looking like that, because the final sector is incredibly wet from the look of it, and first and second sector are doable, but yeah.
A lot of people retiring from the session. We've only got a few people that can challenge, but at this point it's fair to say that Hardy, with one lap in qualifying and a very good early banker lap, has sealed pole position incredibly well. We're going to run with White's YY, but he's not improving in the first sector by whatsoever at the moment. He's currently languishing in 11th again. White's YY struggling in qualifying. He's not going to be improving on that unless he sets a really, really good middle and final sector. We'll wait and see what he can do. We've got one of the McLarens in front of him on the road. I think that might be Pelly on the road in front of him. Actually, no, Pelly's gone off the road in the first sector, so he's not going to be improving on 16th, which is such a shame for Pelly. After a really, really strong start to the season in terms of pace, he's now down at the back of the field. Stumpy didn't set a lap time. He's 17th on the grid. White YY to the end of the second sector. Over half a second down, so yeah, White Y will not be improving. It's only Bree behind him on a lap, I think, and then the two Williams cars, but actually I think the Williams cars have actually crossed the line, so they won't be improving. Bree's coming round in the second sector now. I don't think he's improving on his time either. You can see the rain coming down a little bit harder now as well. White YY is continuing on his lap. He's going to continue to the end, and I think Bree's going to do the same. We'll ride with Bree as he comes into the penultimate corner. Yorno's now retired from the session in the pit lane. So just waiting for all these guys to finish their laps as Bree comes round the final corner. Can he improve on P9? Comes up to the line. He's not going to be improving on his time. He's 0.6 of a second down. Bree stays in 9th. White YY stays in 11th. Jay Luke's not improving on his time in the other Williams. So it's fair to say at the end of the qualifying, the first part of qualifying was pretty intense, and then from there the rain kind of spoiled the end of qualifying in the end. But like we said at the start of the stream, Hardy has incredible pace around here, and he got it done very, very early. Was under no pressure whatsoever. Brilliant lap from Hardy, and Hardy's taken pole position.
Yeah, he only needed one lap, of course, with the rain aiding him in this qualifying session. I think even without the rain, he probably would have had pole because his pace is incredible around this track. But, yeah, it's close between Total Peace and Jake Paul, and of course Jorno up to Mark in P7. It's going to be incredibly close, and it's going to be interesting to see because it's quite difficult to overtake around this track. You only have one big straight, but if you place your car perfectly on the straight, it's going to be very difficult to overtake.
Absolutely, yeah, that is one thing to look out for, how easy it is to get it wrong here. Jay Luke, meanwhile, has parked his car in a dangerous location and has been disqualified from the session, so that means his lap time, I believe, is disallowed. So that means Jay Luke fell from 10th on the grid down to 17th, so that puts YHYY into the top 10. Jay Luke stopping the car on track has meant that he's been disqualified from the session, which is a shame for him. I don't think his season can get any worse, unfortunately, but it just has. He's fallen to the back of the field. But here is the final qualifying order then. After qualifying for round 3 of the championship, it's Hardy on pole for the second time this season. P's on the front row for the second race in a row. J. Cole in third place, his best qualifying of the season in the other racing point. Ahead of Jorno in fourth, his worst qualifying of the season, I believe, to date. He's in fourth ahead of Damon, fifth for the third race running. Super Gamer in sixth ahead of Mark in seventh. Caesar down in eighth. Once again, a poor qualifying for the AlphaTauri man. Ahead of Bree ninth and YHYY 10th. B Morgan and Ton 11th. Ahead of Danny Boy 13th. Storm 14th. Pelly 15th. Stumpy 16th. And J. Luke, after being disqualified from the session, will now start from the back of the field.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what tyre choices that everyone outside the top 10 is going to go on. Because there are quite a few different strategies that are around this track.
And it does look like that rain might not play a part in this race. It is far, far sunnier here for the race than it was for qualifying. So it looks like we're going to have a pretty dry race. So based on the fact that we're going to have a fully dry race, we obviously assume that's going to be like that for the whole way through the race. What do you think the best strategy is for this track?
It's probably the best strategy is to stop pace-wise, but track position is incredibly important on this track. So you can either see the soft hard, just a one stop, or a two stop with the soft medium and soft at the end. I don't know what the fastest strategy is, to be honest. What do you think?
I think it's difficult because depending on where you start in the grid, there's different strategies for different places on the grid, really, isn't there? I imagine we'll see a lot of the people outside the top 10 starting on the mediums because then that gives you free rein to change from a 2 to a 1 stop depending on what you think your pace is. But starting at the front of the field, surely, even though obviously there's lots of long straights here, you would imagine that track position is key for this track. So a 1 stop probably is the best way to go.
Yeah, that might be the best way to go, yeah. Of course, if you're starting top 5, I think the 1 stop might be the best option. Just because of the track position is going to be so important. But people outside the top 10, it's going to be interesting because we have Danny Boy on the softs and Mark on the softs as well. Yeah, they might be doing a 2-stop race.
I don't know if Mark got disqualified from the session himself as well, but he qualified in the top 10. He qualified 7th, I believe, on the grid, and he's now down to 17th. So I don't know if Mark's done the same thing as Jay Luke and got disqualified from the session for parking in a dangerous location. But if that is the case, 2 people caught out by that. That's put them right at the back of the field. And because of, obviously, Mark starting out at the back, he's going to be starting on the softs, like you say. Danny Boy in 12th on the Ferrari is going to be starting on the softs. Ton and B Morgan have gone different on the Haas. So B Morgan in 10th on the grid on a set of medium tyres. Ton's going to be on the hard tyres, so look out for them at the early stages of this race, see what the pace is relative to the other cars around them. And then we've got Storm, Pelly and Stumpy on the mediums and J Luke on the hard, so a real mix of strategies outside the top 10. It's going to be really interesting to see which one actually pays off.
Yeah, it's literally the mix of strategy is it's so close between both of them. Both are viable, soft hard, soft medium, soft medium, soft, everything is possible. They're all fast, but yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what everyone's going to do.
Absolutely, and with Vietnam being the track that it is, it's very likely that we might see a virtual or full safety car in this race, so people capitalising on that and being able to adjust their strategy accordingly to when the safety cars come out. Maybe the ones that come out on top today, before we get going, as they come through the final sector, as I just noticed Hardy's doing a very, very, very slow warm-up lap, but who are you going to pick for your podium positions today? Who do you think is going to get the top 3 places?
I think Hardy's going to win. I'm going to go with J. Cole in second, there's Racing Point 1-2, and Jorno in third.
I'm going to agree with you on the Hardy. I think I'm going to agree with you on Hardy winning this race. I think he's come off the bat of a great result in Bahrain, so I think I'll agree with you with Hardy winning this one. I think we're going to have... I think we might have a bit of a chaotic one, so I'm going to say Caesar in second place for the third race running, as Mark's actually left the session. Joined back. I'm going to say Caesar in second place, and I'm going to go for... I'm going to go for Pease in third. I think Pease is going to make up for the fact that his race in Bahrain really kind of fell off after that early pit stop for him. So I think he might bounce back quite well this race.
Yeah, let's hope so. As we're lining up to the grid, Mark, yeah, he left the session, so it's going to be a little bit late on the grid. Hopefully, he can take back control of his car during the race and ready to go. Oh, he's left the session, and Jay Cole has left the session.
Unfortunately, Jay Cole has left the session as well, so hopefully he can join back before the race fully gets going again. I have to wait and see, but we are ready for the race to get going. We've got lights ahead of the drivers. We've got 5 lights on. Hardy's left the session now as well. A lot of people are leaving the session, so I'm wondering if maybe we're getting a lobby restart. Looks like we might be. Yeah, we are getting a restart in the end. Yeah, okay, so we are getting a lobby restart. So this is just a practice start for everyone to see how they get off the line. So we won't really commentate on this. It is a bit of a mess at the moment, but we'll wait for the new lobby to get restarted. In the meantime, obviously, let us know in the chat who you're surprised by in qualifying, what your predictions are for the race. Who do you think is going to be at the front of the field? We've had Yav. We've had Yav. I'm losing my mind here. I'm losing the way that I speak. We have Jav in the comments saying that he thinks Hardy's going to win from Yorno and Caesar. So his prediction's kind of a mix between the two of ours, but obviously going after qualifying, going into this race, looking at the season we've had so far, do you really think if Hardy does obviously get a good race this time round, do you think Hardy could be one of the favourites for the championship this season?
Yeah, his pace-wise, Hardy definitely is one of the favourites to win the championship. But to be honest, Caesar and Yorno are incredible drivers as well. They also have a great shot at winning the title. And I think it's a little bit too early to tell in the season, for now at least, to really know who's going to fight for a championship.
Absolutely, yeah, that is something to look out for. But if we are basing it on early pace so far this season, Hardy, Yorno and Caesar have shown very, very good pace. But obviously a lot of people have been consistent. B. Morgan's been at the front in some races and been unlucky. YHYY has been at the front in Australia before he obviously went off the road at that track as well. So a lot of people could throw a spanner in the works. The likes of J. Cole, Damon as well has shown good pace so far this season. So anyone really could come out up front. Obviously got a bit of a delay before we get the new lobby up and going again, so apologies if we go a bit silent and we lose talking points or we repeat things, because obviously we're trying to fill the time at the moment. But obviously looking through the rest of the field in qualifying, is there anyone that really stood out to you as maybe a shock as to why they were so far down? Do you think there was anyone that struggled that you wouldn't expect to struggle here?
To be honest, yeah, Caesar is probably the main one, because I think with an actual qualifying he might have had a good shot at getting a top 5 quality start, but yeah, he just didn't go out in time in the wet weather. Probably impacted his lap time, and it's disappointing to see, because he definitely has the pace around this track, as you've said before. In a different race, him and Mark were insane, and yeah, it's a little bit of a disappointing qualifying for him, unfortunately.
Absolutely, yeah, that is one thing to look out for this season. Is Caesar? He's got very, very good race pace, but the qualifying really hasn't helped him so far. That's one thing. If you look, if anyone was bizarre enough to only watch qualifying and never watch the races so far this season, you would see Caesar in 20th on the grid in Australia, and I believe he was 8th on the grid in Bahrain, if my memory serves me correctly. So he's been at the lower ends of the top 10 or last on the grid so far this season. So you'd be shocked to see that he's had 2 podium finishes so far. Just goes to show how well he's recovered in the races. Just other than that, we'll obviously talk about the rest of the season we've had so far. I think obviously we know that some people have struggled. Is there anyone that's really stood out to you as someone that you think maybe could come back later on in the season that's struggled so far, that maybe you might want to, that could come back and be a challenger maybe in 3 or 4 races time?
I think Callum definitely has the pace he's in D3, but yeah, it's a little bit disappointing, and he, of course, I don't think he's racing today, unfortunately, so that's going to hamper him. But Callum is one of those drivers where over the season he might come back into play for the championship.
Absolutely, yeah, that's one thing to look out for when he returns. Obviously he's not racing today, but he should be back next week, hopefully. He has got very, very good pace, and we saw that from the end of last season as well, that he had 2 race wins at the end of last season, despite joining the season only midway through, so he has got good pace. I think it's just looking obviously through the rest of the field. I think another one that stood out so far that's really, really struggled, I know we've both spoken about this before, is YHYY. Well, obviously we competed against YHYY last season. We saw that while he necessarily wasn't the fastest, he was incredibly consistent. He didn't really make any mistakes, and obviously was a race winner at Russia in Division 2 last season. It's a bit of a surprise really to see him struggle so much.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I don't know if he changed any assists or anything, but surprised to see him this far down because he was one of those drivers that he could have been like 50 penalties in a race, and he would never get a single one. He is incredibly consistent, keeps his tires always good in check. So yeah, it's surprising that he's not up there currently.
Absolutely, yeah. Nothing to look out for YHYY. If we do get a wet race this season, YHYY is probably one of the best wet merchants we have in League of Europe. He's incredibly good in the wet conditions. So that's one thing that will obviously serve him this season. He's probably hoping for wet races for the rest of the season, really. He struggled so much in the first 2 races at least, and obviously he's only qualified, I believe, 10th for this race, so he's not going to be too happy with that qualifying position as well. And obviously finished 4th in the standings last season in Division 2. There's a lot of people really that's been moved down from Division 2 that really haven't had the best of seasons, especially J. Cole and B. Morgan. They've both shown flashes of pace, but it's just not worked out for them so far, has it?
Yeah, and you're right. You're really right, because this is they were both quite established drivers in D2, consistent top 10 finishes, doing great, and yeah, being demoted to D3, and especially B. Morgan not really being up there so far. It's been quite surprising.
Absolutely, yes. CB Morgan struggling so far in the championship, not being right at the front. It's been a bit of a shame, really. Hopefully he can bounce back today and get back to the front of the championship. Same with J. Cole. J. Cole's had good pace so far, and he had a good pre-season as well, but the races just haven't worked out for him. Whether he's been involved in incidents or been unlucky, he's just not had the results so far this season that maybe he would have thought he could have got. Other people so far this season that have joined late, we obviously saw, we'll talk a little bit more about Bahrain. We obviously had Super Gamer join for the first time last time out in Bahrain. He had a good race and he showed good pace, but obviously the race didn't go well for him in the end. He obviously got involved in a couple of incidences with both McLarens towards the end of the race. Do you think that was more Super Gamer's doing, maybe being a bit rusty, or do you think Super Gamer was just a bit unlucky in that situation?
I think in that situation he was a little bit. He wasn't patient enough. He was rushing his overtakes and not really taking the time to overtake both McLaren drivers. That might have cost him a little bit. Cost him a lot of time and positions as well, because he had damage, and I think he was in front of Damon before the safety car, and of course after a little bit of contact with Caesar, I believe, he fell back, and Damon of course ended up winning the race on track, but losing out on the podium due to penalties. But yeah, Super Gamer definitely has the race pace.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, yeah, the final safety car restart, he was ahead of Damon. They were both on the same strategy, and we'd seen earlier in the race that Super Gamer was on a set of mediums when everyone else was on a set of hard tyres, and he flew through the pack. He had great pace, and he showed a good overtaking masterclass early in the race, just in the second half of the race. I think he maybe smelt the blood of a race victory, and it got to him a little bit. He got a little bit impatient, like you say, and the overtakes weren't as smooth as they were early on in the race. Speaking of Damon, obviously Damon won on track last time out in Bahrain, but obviously fell back based on the sole one penalty he had. Just goes to show how close the field is. Obviously we know Damon's a bit frustrated by that, but that's kind of a common trait so far of Damon, is that he seems to pick up a little bit too many penalties for his own good.
Yeah, he likes some penalties in the race. Even in practice he often gets penalties, but to be honest, if he actually cleans up those penalties, he really could challenge D3, because he could definitely get some podium finishes, and yeah, just penalties really hamper his race results. As we saw, I think in the preseason race in China as well, he won the race on track, but didn't quite win due to penalties again. So if he has the pace. If he just keeps the car on track, keeps away from penalties, he'll definitely have a shot at a couple of podium finishes this season, in my opinion.
Absolutely, yeah. And that preseason race at China was actually a battle between him and Hardy. So Hardy, obviously on pole for the second time this season, has already won away. So it goes to show that Damon does have the pace to win races. It's just whether he's able to not pick up as many penalties and get to the front without picking those up. And obviously, it's just a little fun fact about Damon as well. I think we're obviously only 2 races into the season, but I think Damon's already picked up half the points tally that he had from the whole of D3 last season, because of obviously D3 last season for him, he wasn't right at the front like he is this time round. So just a little fun fact for you there, that Damon's already picked up half the points that he had last season, which is, I think, fair to say, even with the disappointment of not winning in Bahrain, he'll still be pretty pleased with that.
Yeah, it's a good start to the season. P4 finish, and I think he finished bottom top 10. I'm not sure around Australia, but it is a pretty good start to the season for him. And as we said before, like, he has the race pace to get good top 5, top 3 finishes, but he needs to keep it clean, and I'm sure he'll improve on that during the course of the season.
Absolutely, yeah. We've got to look out for that to wait and see whether he will be able to do that, whether he'll be able to make up for those penalties and things. And I think, yeah, in Australia, he actually picked up 10th in the end. He was 5th on the grid, like we've said a couple of times in this stream, that he was in 5th place. But, yeah, he's qualified well so far this season, and then just got caught up in an incident early on in the race in Australia, and he couldn't really recover from that point. But here we go, guys. Everyone's readying up, so it looks like, thank you to J. Cole, who's obviously the lobby host. Thank you to him for setting up the grid. Obviously, it's a bit of a stressful thing to do, is to set up the grid. You have to wait for everyone to be in the right cars and everyone to be in the lobby so that you can remember to put people in the right place. But thank you to J. Cole for setting up the restart lobby, and it looks like, finally, we are going to get a race at Vietnam.
By the way, everyone racing, please don't forget to put on your setup. It's incredibly important, and everyone inside the top 10 starts on the soft tires.
Absolutely, yeah. Hopefully make sure that everyone is on the same strategy they were on when coming in. And like you say, everyone's got a setup on. If you don't put a setup on, then that could massively cost you here. So look out for that one. And yeah, apologies to D2 and D5 later. They're going to be a little bit delayed because of this, unfortunately. But oh well. Hopefully we get a good race in return for the little delay we've had. And obviously, people in the top 10 starting now on a fresh set of soft tyres as opposed to ones that have been slightly used in qualifying. That is even more of an advantage at this point, as along with the track position for the people that are starting in the top 10. The people from 11th down are probably thinking that this is their worst case scenario now.
Yeah, because they had the tire advantage to the top 10, but now that's unfortunately gone. And actually, with that being said, a soft medium strategy might actually be viable now with the fresh tires.
Absolutely, yeah. Maybe look out for one of the guys in the lower end of the top 10 that maybe isn't fighting too much for track position to maybe extend the soft stint a little bit longer. So try and get the mediums to the end. You probably want to take the soft tyres to about lap 11, lap 12 if you are very, very good on your tyres. But do you really see anyone in this field doing that? I think I have my eye on one person that could possibly pull it off. But do you think that there's anyone that could pull it off in Division 3?
Yeah, you can definitely pull it off, but it's quite a risky strategy because you will get undercut by the hard runners during the race, so you have to fight through traffic, and that might be a little bit difficult, especially if you're the third car in a DRS train. Then it's going to be incredibly difficult to overtake the cars ahead. But yeah, who do you think is going to pull off that strategy?
I've got my eye on YHYY. I think YHYY is the kind of person that could pull that strategy off. He's starting in 10th, obviously. He'll be on a set of soft tyres. We'll have to wait and see. We'll just check, make sure everyone's on different tyres. Actually, Hardy, our race leader's on mediums. Yeah, so our race leader's gone for a different strategy. That's a bit of a problem. I imagine that he won't get away with that one, unfortunately. Hardy might not. He might pick up a penalty for starting on a different set of tyres to what he would have started the race on, unfortunately. So Hardy, after a great qualifying, looks like his race is already compromised. So it doesn't look like, even if he wins on track, it's unlikely that he's going to win this race after the penalties are applied. Yeah,
I think I'm pretty sure it's a disqualification if you start on the wrong tyres after the restart. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, that's very disappointing because he had the pace, especially to win this race, and now starting on the medium tyres. This could hamper his results. Yeah, absolutely, it really could. Everyone else, meanwhile, is starting on the correct tyres, just looking through the field. So everyone else below that is starting on the right ones. Obviously, Mark was 17th on the grid on the race before. Don't know why he was down there, but he's now back up into 7th on the set of soft tyres that he would have started the race on, which is good to see. Everyone else is on the right set of tyres. So, amazingly, the only one that's fallen foul of this rule is our pole sitter. So, two out of 3 races this season, really, where Hardy's not going to score the points that he probably deserved. Yeah, this is incredibly disappointing. So, this like a small mistake like this is really, really costly. And yes, but I think J. Cole's now the one who's actually starting off, because I'm actually pretty sure it's Total Peace. Sorry. Yeah. J. Cole overtook him during the formation lap. My bad. But yeah, incredibly disappointing because he had the pace as we've said multiple times. But starting on the medium tires after qualifying on the softs isn't what we're expecting and isn't what he should have done. So it's a shame. It is a real shame to see that this has happened for Hardy. Whether he meant to do that or not, maybe he was just too late to change the tyres and it's just not paid off for him, which is a shame to see. So just everyone bearing in mind watching the stream that this race for victory probably is not going to be, if Hardy wins on track, it is almost certain that Hardy won't win after this race is complete. So at the moment, technically, it's Pease versus J. Cole that are at the front of the field.
this predicament in, who would you say is favourite to win?
I think I'm gonna bet on J. Cole, Yorno in second, and I'm gonna say Super Gamer in third, just to spice it up.
Absolutely,
what are your predictions just before the lights go out?
I probably agree with you on that one. I'd probably say J. Cole to win this one. I would look at I think Damon, maybe if he has a clean race, could get on the podium. So we'll wait and see what he can do as well. And I probably predict Super Gamer for third as well. But here, lights ahead of the drivers, 5 lights on. Who's going to get the best start off the front row? The lights are out very, very quickly, and away they go. And it looks like J. Cole in third place has actually got a brilliant start in the racing point, though. Hardy, a second place at this start, is really, really poor. He falls behind Pease. Pease is going to lead in turn 1. Yorno's down the inside. They were 3 wide. Yorno sent it down the inside. It'd be a great move from 4th on the grid if he can get to the front, but he can't quite get there. Pease holds the lead through turn 1. Yorno's up into second. J. Cole round the outside of his teammate into third place. Hardy falls to 4th. Ahead of Damon keeps 5th. Mark is side by side with Super Gamer for 6th place at the moment. Caesar stays in 9th. There's a little bit of front wing damage further up. Is that one of the Alpha Tauris that's picked it up, or was it a
Yes, Damon has wing damage.
Yeah, Damon's picked up wing damage on the left-hand side. He's hit the wall somewhere, so already we're only a sector through. Oh, there's a bit of contact further back. Caesar and Mark. Caesar has got a time penalty, I think, so was Super Gamer for cutting the chicane. I think Mark sent that into the braking zone very, very late, and Caesar almost had to go in even deeper into the corner to avoid him, but that's a lot of people missing the chicane. White YY is trying to work his way forwards. Super Gamer's got front wing damage as well by the looks of things, so he's going to fall through the field. Super Gamer with a 5-second time penalty for corner cutting and gaining a place, so he's going to drop further back as well. White YY's passed a lot of cars here. He's up into 7th place. Caesar's up into 6th. We've got a battle further up. Yorno's ground the outside He's around the outside of J. Cole. J. Cole's actually coming back at Yorno after a relatively poor start. J. Cole's trying to come back at Yorno, trying to go around the outside of him, but he's not quite close enough to make the move stick. He still leads ahead of Yorno, ahead of J. Cole. Hardy's down to 4th. Damon's in 5th, but with front wing damage. Ahead of his Alpha Tauri teammate of Caesar, who's running in 6th place. Marcus in 7th, ahead of YY. Super Gamer. Danny Boy's up into 10th. A brilliant start from outside the top 10. He's crawling all over the back of Super Gamer, who's running with front wing damage. B Morgan's in 11th ahead of Pelly, who's up to 12th. He's had a brilliant start. Tons dropped to 13th on the hard tyres. Excel Breeze at the back. Yorno, Hardy's into the pit lane. Meanwhile, White YY's into the pit lane. Damon, I think, has stayed out.
More front wing flying.
Yeah, more front wing flying. I didn't quite see who that was in the background, actually. I'll have to wait and see whether we see anyone with front wing damage. White Super Gamer's coming to the pit lane. Hardy's coming to the pit lane as well. So White YY's obviously picked up damage. Maybe he was the one that lost a bit of front wing, maybe later on in the lap. So he's come in after a good start. That's put Danny Boy up into 8th place. So he's had an amazing start. B Morgan, the lead person on the alternate strategy. And Pelly from the back row of the grid is 10th. Oh, he's just hit the wall, though. Pelly's now the next person to hit the wall. He's gone and hit the wall at the same corner as Damon did at the start of the race, and he's picked up front wing damage. We've already had, I think, 5 people in this race pick up damage. And look at the top 3. The top 3 are gone. They are so far out in front. They are 4 seconds clear of Caesar. Caesar's now got front wing damage as well, so Caesar's passed his teammate, but himself has also picked up damage. So the top 3 running clean out in front, 4 seconds clear of the rest of the field. As here comes Mark, he's going to cruise past Damon down the back straight. Maybe the straight is long enough, so he could have a go at Caesar here as well. Super Gamer's retired from the session. He's hit the wall coming out of turn 4, unfortunately. Mark looking to the inside of Caesar, but Caesar's really, really late on the brakes. It's going to compromise his line. It's going to be on the curb, and we have a virtual safety car. Mark, I think, might have passed Caesar after the virtual safety car came out. Mark slowed down. I don't know if Caesar's going to get back through, though, so I don't know whether Mark's passed him before the virtual safety cars come out. But Mark has worked his way now up into 4th, but is so far off the top 3 who have disappeared out in front.
Yeah, and interesting to say, it's interesting to note, is Hardy hit at lap 1. I don't think he had damage.
Oh, Yorno's in. Yorno's into the pit lane. Wow, second place in this race. Yeah, he's into the pit lane already. Virtual safety car has ended, so they are back racing once again.
Well.
Oh, both Alpha Tauris are coming to the pit lane at the same time. That is such a shame.
Both McLarens as well.
Yeah, both McLaren. So Pelly's in to replace his front wing. Yorno didn't have any damage. Pelly's retired from the session, unfortunately. Yorno didn't have any damage, so this looks like a strategy call from Yorno. I'll be amazed if he can get those hard tyres to the end of the race. He's probably going to hope for maybe a late safety car in this one. Both Alpha Tauris in means that Damon's going to get held massively in the pit lane here, as is Bree. I think Bree's coming into the pit lane, but he's going to get held behind Damon's car that is stopped in front of his pit box. Looking further up the field, though, Mark's worked his way now up into 3rd place. There's a 1.1 second gap between Peace and J. Cole, who are way out in front. Danny Boy from 12th on the grid is 4th. What a flying start he's had.
That's incredible. Starting on the soft tires with that extra grip has definitely paid off. And B Morgan is now all over the back of him and going down the inside of the roundabout. Jelly Boy really close to the wall, but just about didn't touch it. And now B Morgan is looking to overtake the Fry man in front of him, using the DRS and overtake. He's going to go around the outside. Is he going to get clear of Danny Boy before the braking zone. He does.
He does,
I think
yeah.
B. Morgan has this move done. He does, yeah.
A little bit of a lock up into the hairpin, but he gets the car stopped. B. Morgan on the alternate strategy up into 4th place. This has played massively into Haas's hands. They are now running 4th and 6th on alternate strategy, so they're in a great spot. Let's see whether B. Morgan can maybe catch Mark for 3rd place. That would be great for his race if B. Morgan can get to the back of the guys in front. Danny Boy swarming all over the back of the Haas man once again in the final sector. This is where the soft tyres are going to have more grip, but B. Morgan just seems to be the faster driver at this point in the race. Danny Boy still swarming all over the back. Meanwhile, further back, Ton is in 6th. Storm is up into 7th. Storm has mentioned that he's struggled for race pace around this track in practice and has struggled so far this season, but running in 7th place once again and just in the DRS range of Ton. He's doing a good job, as is Stumpy, who's up from the back of the grid to 8th place. J. Luke up from stone dead last on the grid, now 9th. Everyone from 10th down, has had to make a pit stop in this race, as B. Morgan and Danny Boy are fighting once again. B. Morgan just holds on to the place into turn 1, but everyone from 10th down has made a pit stop in this race. Just goes to show how chaotic the start has been, and look how much Damon has lost in that pit stop phase. He is, I think, another pit stop nearly behind his teammate at this point.
Yeah, and that is quite, yeah, the pit window is around 18 seconds, and yeah, he is roughly 19 seconds behind his teammate, so he is in fact almost basically a pit stop behind him, and J. Cole is now within DRS of Total P's in front, and yeah, it's looking like a big gap between the top 2 and the rest of the field.
They're continuing to pull away from Mark, who's running on his own at the moment in 3rd. This is more like it from Mark. Mark has obviously had good pace so far this season, but races have never really gone his way. He's made it through the first couple of laps without picking up any damage. He's worked his way through the field from 7th on the grid. He's up into the podium places. He'll be much happier with that than the races he's had so far. B. Morgan still ahead of Danny Boy. He's just held on to the place, but they are dropping back ever so slightly from the Renault man. Expected to see that because obviously B. Morgan's on the harder of the 2 tyres. Tunit, meanwhile, in 6th is dropping back, and Storm's starting to swarm all over the back of the other Haas cars. So Storm's looking to have good race pace on these mediums. I am, though, obviously at this point in the race, it's slowed down a little bit with obviously the pit stops coming in. I am incredibly shocked that Yorno came in so early.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be incredibly difficult to get those hard tires to the end. I don't know if it's possible or not, actually.
I mean, it depends on whether we have another safety car in this race. He could stay out and take those to the end, but he won't have the pace or the grip at the end compared to other people. I mean, we said that it's about Yorno in both races so far, that he can't really come back from the mistakes or incidents he's been involved in. He's had 2 podiums and he's the championship leader. Caesar's pitted for a 2nd time in this race. I think he's maybe picked up more damage on the left-hand side. Yeah, I think he has. He's got more damage. We've got a virtual safety car, actually, and I think that's just what... Damon's hit the wall. Wow, Damon's hit the wall in the final sector somewhere and is out of the race. So Damon, after a good start to the season, both AlphaTauris at the back of the field. Damon out, Caesar 14th after his 2nd pit stop in the race and a new front wing. Well, that's a disaster for them. They were obviously at the front of the field for qualifying. Now one of them's out, the other person is last and way off the back of the field. What a disaster for AlphaTauri.
Yeah, they had a great start actually. They were P5 and 6, I believe. In lap 1, and Damon of course getting wing damage in turn 4, which is very incredibly disappointing. Now Caesar running in P14.
Wow.
Massive back. He really needs a safety car in order to score some points, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. And this race at the moment is looking like prime opportunity for anyone outside the top 3 in the championship to catch back up. Obviously Hardy with the compromise strategy. Stumpy's gone past J. Luke, I think. Actually, J. Luke's actually trying to get past the Storm, meanwhile, round the outside of Ton, coming into the 3rd sector. It'd be a great move if he can pull that one off round the outside. A great move from Storm. He goes round the outside of the Haasman up into 6th place. Great move from him. Stumpy, meanwhile, defends off J. Luke, keeps P8 for the time being. But from Storm, for a man who says that he's lacking confidence at this track, that is a brilliant move from the Red Bull man. He's up into 6th place.
Yeah, brilliant move. Of course, using those medium tyres to his advantage when Ton is on the hard tyres. Incredible move. Around the outside into the 3rd sector. That is something incredibly ballsy, has to be said.
Yeah.
And great move. And now he's trying to catch Danny Boy in P5.
Absolutely, yeah. There's about 5.5 seconds between them. Danny Boy's lost DRS now to B. Morgan. Is J. Luke around the outside of turn 1. Stumpy leaves them absolutely no space at all, forces him off the road. J. Luke's down the inside from off the track in turn 2, and he's down the inside. Not quite sure J. Luke's going to get away with that one. He was completely off the road on the inside of turn 2 and made the move stick there on Stumpy. So J. Luke up into 8th place, but that one will probably get investigated by the stewards for overtaking off the track He seems to have got the pace though, as here comes Hardy now in behind. Obviously Hardy not running really in this race at the moment. Stumpy, wow, an amazingly late dive up the inside there of the corner, but he's not going to make the move stick. He's now down the inside of the left-hander, trying to compromise J-Luke's line onto the straight. Stumpy will have the run coming down the back straight now, coming into the hairpin, and Hardy's on the back of these guys as well. Let's see whether Stumpy can get past towards the hairpin. He's on his overtake. He's using a lot of it to try and close up. J-Luke's going to go all the way to the left-hand side to the wall to have the inside line for the hairpin, but Stumpy is just going to breeze round the outside with how long that straight is and the DRS. Stumpy breezes back past J-Luke and back up into 8th place.
Yeah, now Hardy, he pitted lap, I think Hardy pitted lap 1 to serve his, I don't know if he, because he started on the medium tires, I don't know if he, yeah, I'm pretty sure he didn't have damage lap 1. So I don't know if he's trying to maybe like make up for the fact that he started on the medium tires for the start of the race. I'm not entirely sure, but we'll keep an eye on him during the race, of course. And it's incredibly close between J-Luke and Stumpy, of course, battling together. And I think J-Luke is trying to look past. Stumpy has a lock-up going to the penultimate corner. J-Luke might have a shot at overtaking Stumpy into turn 1, but doesn't get a good exit out of the final corner, unfortunately. So you have to stay behind. But yeah, with Hardy, of course, starting on the medium tires, do you actually know what's going to happen? Because
I don't know at this point. I don't know what the penalty is really for someone starting on the wrong tyres, but in real life, someone starting on the wrong tyres I do think is a disqualification, so I won't be surprised if we don't see Hardy score any points today. Even if he does finish in the points, he might get disqualified for starting on the wrong tyres, so we'll have to wait and see. Looking further up at the field though, we have now got a battle for 3rd place. Caesar's got a drive through for speeding in the pit line. I imagine we'll probably see Caesar retire. We do. 2nd place in the championship after 2 2nd places so far this season. He's out of the race. Hardy's basically looking like a disqualification in this one. Caesar's out, and Jorno's on a compromise strategy. Perfect opportunity for anyone outside the top 3 in the championship to gain points here. And Mark, meanwhile, on those soft tyres, has been caught so quickly by B. Morgan now. B. Morgan is within DRS range, and Mark is 9 seconds off the back of the top 2. They are in a class of their own, and they've disappeared out front.
Yeah, they have incredible pace. Total Peas and Jaco, they're really pushing away from Mark, and now they have a very comfortable gap to probably go on to the hard or medium tires to start the race.
Bit of a battle further in behind. Jorno, I think, tried to make a move on Hardy, and he didn't get the move stuck, so he's fallen back into 11th place. They stay in the same order for the time being. They were 3 wide coming out of the hairpin, but I think they stay in the same order they entered the corner in. B. Morgan's flying. He's dropped Danny Boy now. Danny Boy's dropping Storm, so Danny Boy kind of in a race on his own in 5th place. But B. Morgan, it looks like the soft tyres have reached their peak, and now the medium tyres are the better ones. He's absolutely flying. He's caught Mark by about 2.5 seconds in the last 2 or 3 laps, really. He's absolutely flying. I don't know if Mark's made a mistake somewhere, but it doesn't look like it. He hasn't got any damage. So we'll see whether the Hassman can get up onto the podium places. This will be more like it for B. Morgan, who struggled so far to get the results, and he struggled at the end of the Bahrain race after an overtake from Damon. He kind of really fell through the field from that point onwards. But B. Morgan to get on the podium, this could really be the kickstart to his season.
Yeah, of course, and now J. Cole's within 4/10, I believe, of Total Peas in front. He might have a shot at an overtake in the hairpin. Sorry, go ahead.
That was just B. Morgan picking up a time penalty. He broke too late for the chicane, picks up a time penalty. Every time I talk good about someone, they make a mistake. But J. Cole right in behind Peas. One thing I've noticed here, though, is J. Cole is completely out of ERS already. We're on lap 8. Coming down the straight, he was down to about 4% by the time he turned DRS on. Peas has got at least, I would say, 25% more here. So Peas has got a little bit in reserve to defend. It does look like J. Cole's really, really pushing to try and keep with Peas. So if there is a break between these two and J. Cole falls out of DRS, it does look like Peas has the raw pace, really, to pull away.
Yeah, but J. Cole is hounding the back of him, so I'm not sure. I think J. Cole maybe tried to use a lot of overtake to get past, but they're both in now.
Yeah, end of lap 8, they're both into the pit lane at the same time, so neither one of them have diverted from their strategy. Let's see what tyres they go on. This could be crucial here. Does Peas go for a set of mediums or a set of hards? That's going to be key to this one. Peas is going to go for a medium set of tyres. Second race in a row, Peas is committed to a 2-stop strategy here. So he's gone for the mediums. He won't get those to the end. I'll be amazed if he does. J. Cole's done the same. So J. Cole's also on a medium tyre. They're not going to go to the hards. They don't think they can make a 1-stop work. So they're going for the 2-stop strategy here, which I'm a little bit shocked by. I would have expected at least one of them to go different.
Yeah, especially with the track position they had. They were 9 seconds clear of Mark behind, so they could have just went on the the 1-stop and probably had no pressure from the guys behind. But interesting to see as Hardy is now hounding the back of Stumpy, and Jorno overtook J-Luke last lap out.
J-Luke's got damage, I think, yeah.
Hardy really struggling on those medium tyres, and now Giorno might have a shot at overtaking it down into turn 5. Giorno going around the outside, Hardy defending the inside. Giorno braking extremely late. Hardy's still there, but that's a clean move from Giorno.
Yeah, brilliant move from Giorno. Once again, Giorno's done a lot of overtaking so far this season. It's caught a lot of people off guard, and people have said that he's been too aggressive, but in my personal opinion, I don't think he has at all. He's shown really, really good racecraft, and again, another good overtake from Giorno. He's passed Hardy up into 8th place on those hard tyres. Now going to be trying to hassle the back of Stumpy. He's actually closed in massively on this straight, and he's got loads of overtake to attack Stumpy with. He's trying to get the move done as early as possible. He looks to the outside for the hairpin. Is he late enough on the brakes? He's very late on the brakes, but Stumpy holds the inside line. Giorno trying to get the switch back, but the corner's just too tight for you to really pull that one off. So Giorno stays in 8th place for the time being. He's still hounding the back of the Alfa Romeo. He's looking down the inside now. Really, really late on the brakes. He uses the curb on the inside. He's a bit wide on the exit of the corner. Can Stumpy come back at him? No, he can't. Another great move from Giorno up into 7th place. That's one thing that Hardy and J. Luke couldn't do. They were stuck behind Stumpy for so long. Giorno cruises up to the back of them and passes them immediately.
Yeah, incredible. And of course, Giorno is on the hard tyres, and Hardy is on the medium tyres, and same for Stumpy. Overtaking on the hard tyres is incredibly difficult, especially on guys in front of you who have a softer tyre set. So that is an incredible move from Giorno, and he's looking incredibly fast. And it's going to be interesting to see if he actually can make it to the end on those tyres, because he pitted lap 2, I believe, on those hard tyres, and it's going to be he really has to save those tyres to make it to the end.
Absolutely, yeah. If not, he's pretty much on the same strategy as Tun, who's directly in front of him at the moment. So if not, he will be able to pit again, and he will be racing really for a P5 here, which is a good result. Hardy now finally gets past Stumpy. It's taken him about 4 laps or so to do it, but Hardy is now past the Alfa Romeo man and up into 8th place. Stumpy down to 9th. J. Luke picked up front wing damage, as I mentioned earlier. He's running in 10th. Danny Boy's also pitted for the medium tyres from the softs at the start. He's come out just ahead of his teammate. YHYY again struggling down in 12th place after pitting early for damage. He's on the medium tyres. At the front of the field, B. Morgan, meanwhile, we've completely missed it. All the action in the midfield, B. Morgan somewhere has passed Mark. So Mark is going long on these soft tyres, maybe to try and make the one stop on the soft mediums work. We're on lap 10 here. We'll have to see if he can get to the end of lap 11 without really struggling. But B. Morgan now leads this race on the alternate strategy, running on the medium tyres. B. Morgan is in a brilliant opportunity here to maybe steal a podium here. And if B. Morgan decides to change his strategy and go for a one-stop, B. Morgan could be within a shot of winning this race as Mark dives into the pit lane.
Yeah, because Total P's and J. Cole behind him are essentially on the same strategy as B. Morgan, except B. Morgan is on a lot older tyres. But yeah, B. Morgan definitely has a shot at getting a podium this race, because he of course is on those medium tyres, and I imagine he'll go on the hards or on the soft tyres. Depends how far he can take those medium tyres. But yeah, he definitely has a shot at a podium, because he's driving incredibly fast right now. And Total Peace is only 3.7 behind him, but they're essentially on the same strategy, because both of them still have to make a pit stop this race.
Absolutely, yeah. Whether Pease and J. Cole can take those mediums to the end is pretty doubtful. They've got to take these tyres at least 20 laps in this race, which is a big ask considering they can only do 8 laps on a fresh set of soft tyres. So we imagine we'll see them in for another pit stop. B. Morgan could come in around lap 12 or 13 for a set of hard tyres, or he could extend to maybe, if he can, to lap 17 and put the softs on. We'll have to wait and see what he can do. Further in behind him, Tun on the hard tyres. Just goes to show that starting on the hard tyres really hasn't worked, because Tun and B. Morgan started relatively close to each other in the pack in the end. They were only 1 space apart. They were 11th to 12th on the grid. Tun is now nearly a pit stop behind his teammate after 11 laps.
Yeah, and then Tun really needs to hold up Giorno now for his teammate to have a shot at the podium, but I don't think Ton's going to fight, and Giorno's down the inside into the hairpin, pushes on out of the corner, and he's passed.
He is passed, yeah. That is kind of the nature of the corner, really. If anyone thought that was maybe a bit of a dirty overtake, that's kind of really the nature of the hairpin. You can't go too wide as Hardy breezes around the outside of Tun, coming into the third sector, absolutely breezes around the outside of him and takes 5th place away from Tun as well. So Tun loses 2 places in 2 corners. Just goes to show that starting on the hard start really hasn't worked. He doesn't have the pace at the moment, neither does J. Luke further in behind, and he's picked up damage as well. So the hard tyres aren't the way to go at the start of this race. Tun now falls down into 6th place. Giorno is back up into 4th, but that early pit stop has cost Giorno so much. He was running, well, in between Pease and J. Cole. He is now 11.5 seconds behind J. Cole after that early pit stop. That's just not worked for him. Oh, Pease has had a massive moment out of turn 4, has hit the wall. I just caught that. Pease was running really, really nicely. He was running, coming out of turn 4, and he slid the car and hit the wall on the inside and damaged his left-hand side of his end plate. That's a massive shame for Pease, who was in the lead of this race, or in the net lead anyway, and had led the whole way through, has just gifted J. Cole the net race lead here, and a massive advantage over the rest of the field.
I didn't quite catch that, but that is crucial to the race, because now J. Cole basically has clear space in front of him, and he could push on because he doesn't have to worry about the dirty air of Toto Pease in front of him. And now J. Cole is looking like the main guy to win this race.
At the moment, really, this race is kind of only a race between J. Cole and B. Morgan at this point. If B. Morgan can hold J. Cole up enough and maybe switch to a one-stop, then that's really B. Morgan's best chance. But B. Morgan is still within a good shot of getting second place here if Yorno can't take those cars to the end of the race. Meanwhile, Danny Boy in the Ferrari, he's going to get past Stumpy now down into the hairpin. He's down the inside, very tight line. Stumpy tries to get the undercut back up the inside of him, but Danny Boy parts the car on the apex and is up into 7th place, doing a very good job at the moment in the Ferrari of keeping up with the guys in front. He's now into 7th place, doing a very good job ahead of Stumpy, who's really struggling on those medium tyres, as Pease has retired from the session. That is such a shame to see. That is such a shame. That is wasted points, really, for Pease. Pease could have come in, changed his front wing, put a hard tyres on, and still had a shot maybe of finishing in the top 5, just based on the pace he had. But he's retired from the race. That is such a shame to see for Pease, and that means that everyone that finishes this race now is guaranteed points.
Yeah, that is. I'm quite shocked, actually, because he probably would have still finished inside the top 10 and would have picked up some decent points in the championship. But unfortunately, he retires the race, and that's not something we want to see. But it is what it is, really. And now J. Cole is hounding the back of B. Morgan in front of him.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll have to wait and see whether he can get past. Meanwhile, Mark, after stretching those soft tyres out, it hasn't worked. Look how many places Mark has fallen. Mark was running in a net 3rd place, is now behind. Obviously, Ton hasn't pitted, neither has Stumpy. But he's now 3.5 seconds behind Danny Boy, who was well behind him before the pit stops. So Mark has lost no end of time by staying out even 3 laps longer. And with a track position that's key around this track, it's just really not worked for Mark once again. A bit of an odd strategy call once again from Mark, and it's costing places.
Yeah, but he might be able to make the one-stop work with the soft mediums as compared to the guy in front of him, who probably all still have to make a pit stop for this race.
Hardy and Yorno battling here. Hardy goes down the inside at the hairpin, but Yorno does the switch back nicely, gets back up the inside, gets back into 3rd place, but they're still continuing to lose time to J. Cole in front, and obviously they both are on compromise races here. J. Cole is crawling all over the back of B. Morgan at this point. B. Morgan staying out for another lap. He maybe wants to extend to the soft tyre stint towards the end. Let's wait and see whether he can actually pull that one off. Yorno still ahead. Yorno seems very, very, very confident in this final sector of the lap, but he seems to lose a lot in the early parts of the lap, which is where Hardy obviously catches back up. But as Hardy hits the wall there, but just about gets away with it. Yorno, despite obviously the compromise strategy, the pace he's showing, he's still pulling away from the guys behind, and Danny Boy will be on a 2-stop strategy. Stumpy and Ton still have to pit. J. Luke has to pit as well. Yorno is really here in a battle with Mark for 3rd place now.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I'm still quite shocked if he actually make it to the end on those tires, because it's going to be incredibly difficult, and those tires will probably be, like at a crippling level tire wear wise, because it's going to be incredibly difficult, because fresh tires around this track are significantly faster. Probably a fresh set of mediums compared to an old set of hards will probably be like 2 or 3 seconds a lap faster.
Absolutely, yeah. As J. Cole, meanwhile, he breezes past B. Morgan down towards the hairpin. J. Cole retakes the lead of the race. B. Morgan falls to 2nd, but obviously B. Morgan has not stopped yet. J. Cole, a bit of a slide there coming out of the hairpin, just about gets away with it. Yorno as well, one thing, if he can try and get these tyres to the end of the race, he's been pushing like crazy, really, since coming out of the pit lane. He's made some great overtakes, so just based on his demeanour, really, in this car, I'll be shocked if he is doing a one-stop, because he's taken a lot of life out of these hard tyres trying to get these overtakes stuck, as Mark, meanwhile, is the next person to pass Stumpy. Stumpy loses out once again. He's back down to 8th place as Mark moves up now into 7th. Mark has got no ERS, though, at all left, and Stumpy has he has 80%, so Mark has used all of his ERS trying to get past the Alfa Romeo man. Clearly, Stumpy didn't fight that one too hard, knowing they're on different strategies. Mark is now 3.3 seconds behind Danny Boy, who is now coming up behind Ton, who obviously hasn't pitted in this race yet either. So it's key, really, in this race is ERS management, and it looks like a lot of people here are really, really struggling, especially J. Cole. J. Cole doesn't have a lot of ERS. Obviously, he's running around really on his own at the moment, but he's really struggling to keep an ERS in. So if he does come under any sort of pressure later on in this race, he doesn't really have anything to defend with.
Yeah, he really needs to save his ERS, and just in case someone like Yorno in front of him, because J. Cole will likely pit again, he really needs that ERS percentage to probably make an overtake work. And yeah, he definitely needs to save his ERS. Otherwise, that will be quite difficult for him to make an overtake stick around this track.
Absolutely is Stumpy. Meanwhile, he's come into the pit lane for his first pit stop and one and only pit stop in this race. He's put the hard tyres on, so he'll easily be able to get those to the end of the race. We are about halfway through this one now. He took the mediums to the half race distance, but you just saw there really how much Stumpy, his pace dropped towards the end of that stint. He dropped well down the field. He's now down to 11th place. The person at the running at the back moment is Bree after a couple pit stops. Again, Bree not having the start to the season that he would have wanted. At the end of the season, really, for D3 last time around, didn't really go well for him, and he lost second in the championship at the end of last season to Packer because of a dip in form, and it seems that unfortunately that form's really continued for him so far.
Yeah, it's incredibly disappointing because he was the main challenger to Ben JS last season, and they'll still score some points if he finishes this race. But yeah, it's a disappointing start to the season for, I think, both Renault drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. Both drivers will at least be frustrated with what results they have so far this season. Danny Boy, meanwhile, is really coming unstuck behind Ton. He's being held up and Mark's closing in. Danny Boy having a look down the inside of the penultimate corner, but doesn't get the move stuck. He's not close enough to get past. Meanwhile, looking at the front of the field, B. Morgan. We're on lap 16. B. Morgan is still going on that set of medium tyres. I'm amazed he's not picked up a puncher yet. Danny Boy looking to the inside of turn 1. He's late on the brakes. He takes a shallow line. Ton leaves him just enough space. But again, a bit of a half-hearted move from the Ferrari man, and he can't get past. All this is allowing Mark to catch back up. Mark is getting close to DRS range of these two behind. Can Danny Boy maybe get this move stuck here? No, Danny Boy loses the car on the exit of turn 4. Once again, another person caught out by turn 4. He hits the wall and has damaged his front wing massively. That is such a shame for Danny Boy, who was having such a strong race today. That's another front wing change for another driver here. Another front wing change gone on in Vietnam, and that's going to drop him right to the back of the field for what could have been a top 5 finish for Danny Boy. What a shame to see him fall down the field now.
Yeah, kind of disappointing. He'll still score some points if he actually finishes the race, but it's very disappointing. That was he had a very good stint on the medium tires, really closing to the guys ahead. But yeah, it's very unfortunate. It's so easily to get caught out by the curb of turn 4, and yeah, it's disappointing to see.
It is a real shame to see Danny Boy fall down the field. He's got a lot of front wing damage. He'll be coming into the pits, and he will probably come out around Bree with the amount of pace he's going to lose in the final sector, unfortunately. So we'll wait and see where he comes out. B. Morgan, meanwhile, at the end of lap 16, he's finally coming into the pit lane. Is he going to put a set of soft tyres on? If he does, that is 12 laps on a set of soft tyres. That is a massive ask for B. Morgan.
He will have fresh soft, so he could make it to the end. But it's going to be incredibly difficult. His
pace is definitely going to drop as the race goes on. He'll obviously drop pace within maybe the last 3 or 4 laps of the race, and we saw how much Mark lost in those just by extending by 2 laps. So right, we'll have to wait and see whether he can make those moves early. It looks like Tun's going to come out ahead of his teammate. He's actually going to be well ahead of his teammate based on how the pit exit works here. He's going to be ahead of Tun and Mark. So B. Morgan comes out in 4th place, which obviously with Hardy's race pending investigation and Yorno want to compromise strategy, B. Morgan is in a net podium here, at least a 3rd place, and let's see whether he can catch Yorno towards the end. Meanwhile, out front, J. Cole. We'll see, he probably has to make another pit stop in this race, just J. Cole, based on the strategy he went for, but 16.5 seconds clear of Yorno. That just goes to show, at the moment, J. Cole and B. Morgan really are the only ones that have had clean races today.
Yeah, and he is incredibly fast on those medium tyres. He, of course, probably will still have to pit, probably onto the soft tyres, I imagine. But only 16 seconds in front of Yorno. Yorno will probably come out ahead of him if J. Cole pits this lap. But J. Cole with low ERS, it's going to be incredibly difficult to overtake Yorno if he actually does come out behind him. Because Yorno has 66% ERS. That is incredible. And yeah, I think J. Cole really has to save his ERS right now, just before his pit stop, or try and get the 18-second gap and maybe overcut him, basically.
Absolutely.
On those medium tyres. It's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen.
Absolutely. He doesn't look like he's saving a lot at the moment, so it is very difficult to save ERS around this track as well. So that's one thing to remember, is that J. Cole, the likes of J. Cole and all that, are going to struggle to regain ERS unless they come into the pit lane or are behind another driver. So that's one thing to look out for. J. Cole struggling to get that ERS back. Ton, meanwhile, he's come into the pit lane from his set of hard tyres, so that frees up Mark. One thing I've noticed, though, is that B. Morgan, before the pit stop, obviously passed Mark and gained about a second on Mark before Mark dived into the pit lane. B Morgan went an extra 7 laps on those medium tyres and still came out ahead of Mark. That just goes to show that B Morgan has really, really good pace around here.
Yeah, and that traffic really plays a key part in the strategy, because Mark, of course, had to overtake a couple of cars to get where he is right now. But yeah, B Morgan is absolutely flying on those medium tires, really closing into the back of Hardy, who is basically onto the back of Yorno. So it's going to be interesting to see. Maybe B Morgan might have a shot at actually winning the race if he gets in front of J. Cole after his pit stop.
We'll have to wait and see whether J. Cole comes in again and puts the set of soft tyres on. Does he come out behind B Morgan? Meanwhile, Ton has come out the pit lane in 9th, but is immediately trying to make a move on Stumpy into the chicane. He's down the inside. Stumpy can't fight it. He's not got the grip or the tyres to really fight against Ton, and Ton's up into 8th place. Meanwhile, further in behind, Jay Luke is still going. He hasn't pitted yet. He's running in 6th place. He's about to get passed though by White YY, who looks like he'll be going to the end of the race on the set of medium tyres, set of hard tyres, sorry. Good comeback from White YY, despite obviously pitting on lap 1 for damage and obviously having a struggle in this race. He's up into 6th place, and it's good point, at least a good points haul for him. But he's now 15 seconds off the back of Mark in front as J. Cole makes his first pit stop. But yeah, like I was saying, a good comeback for White YY.
Yeah, that literally shows why everything is possible in D3, because you can have damage lap 1 and still end up in D6 right now, although Ton behind him is flying on those soft tires. I don't know if YY has any penalties or not, but it's going to be very close finish to the end of the race. And J. Cole's into the pits, just came out behind Hardy and Yorno.
Yeah, so it seems that the B Morgan did catch back up, but not enough. B Morgan didn't have enough pace to get back ahead of J. Cole. So J. Cole was back out in the net race lead technically, but Yorno now leads the race. But look at that. Yorno only 9 tenths ahead of J. Cole. Even with the ERS management that Yorno's had, it almost looks like a done deal that J. Cole's just going to breeze past Yorno at this point. We'll have to wait and see by the end of the straight. But look at that. He gained 3.5 tenths of a second on Yorno in one corner alone. There's not really any chance here for Yorno to defend this one.
Yeah, Yorno is using his ERS to defend against J. Cole on the straight, but I think J. Cole really has to stay behind, although he is using it quite a lot and gaining rapidly on Yorno. Is he going to go for a little luck up at the inside? He is. Brakes extremely late and gets the car stopped, and he's already past Yorno.
Wow.
Literally the first opportunity he got, he's immediately passed, and that was, yeah, as you said, Yorno, wasn't really a reason to defend that, because yeah, J. Cole is flying on the soft tires, and now he has B Morgan behind him, who's also on the soft tires. So this is going to be interesting to see if Yorno can hold this place to B Morgan and finish on the podium, or P2. Sorry, my bad.
Absolutely, yeah. This is I mean, we said before the race got going today that J. Cole and B Morgan have struggled so far this season as Hardy's into the pit lane for the second time in this race. We said that J. Cole and B Morgan have struggled so far this season, and it was a shame to see them struggling, having done so well last season in Division 2. I think they heard us before the stream, because they are having brilliant races so far, and B Morgan is obviously all over the back of Yorno here. I would also like to say that J. Cole just Yorno'd Yorno. That is a Yorno move, in just coming up to the back of someone and passing them immediately, and J. Cole just did it, and look at that. 2 seconds clear already. He's gone out in front. B Morgan isn't really going to be able to have doesn't seem to have the pace to catch J. Cole at this point. And now B Morgan's down the inside of Yorno, coming up to the chicane. He's going to get the move done before he even gets to the braking zone. He hits the brakes. Does Yorno have the grip to fight back in the long roundabout corner? I don't think he's going to quite have the pace to get back at get back on the back of B Morgan. Really, look at that. Yeah, 7-8 tenths behind.
Almost a second.
Yeah, almost broke DRS range in one corner, did B Morgan. That's how much grip he's got. And that's, like you said, the tyre advantage here on a fresh set of tyres is so massive that Yorno in one corner has lost the ability to re-overtake B Morgan.
Would it be a good option for Yorno to pit now? Because he's on incredibly old hards, and those hards, you have to take them another 8 laps into the race. Is it going to be a good shout for him to maybe pit for the soft tyres?
It is a big ask. It is a big ask to be safe, but the problem is that if he does pit now, he will come out behind Mark, and it does look like Mark is going to the end of this race. He obviously will have a pace and tyre advantage over Mark, but it's whether he can get past Mark as quickly as possible. Obviously he'll come out behind Hardy, but Hardy at the moment not really in this race, is he? So it's Mark really he's got to worry about. They're running at kind of the same pace at the moment, so if Yorno can kind of keep this pace up, he should be safe in third. It's whether he gets a puncture, as J. Cole does a 36.5. What a lap from J. Cole. That's so fast. So much faster than anyone else in the field. And he's now 3.5 seconds clear of B Morgan. I hate to say that, well, obviously on lap 21 of this race, I hate to say that this race has ended prematurely, but it's fair to say that this race has ended prematurely because it doesn't really look like there's going to be a battle for the win at this point.
Yeah, unless there's penalties, I think this is going to be, yeah, the top 2 finish at least, or top 3 even.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't imagine seeing this one. Yeah, I don't imagine seeing this one change. I don't imagine seeing this result changing because of how, obviously, how big J. Cole's lead is, and look how much he's continuing to extend. It's now 4.3 at the end of one sector. He's gained at least 0.6 of a second on B Morgan in one sector alone. Obviously, B Morgan's tyres are 2 laps older than J. Cole's, so B Morgan at least just trying to get those soft tyres to the end of the race. And Yorno hasn't fallen too far back at the moment, so if Yorno can keep some sort of decent pace in this and B Morgan does run out of tyre life, Yorno could still come back at the Haasman here. I would just like to say though, I said earlier on that this is a great opportunity for someone further down in the championship to get back at the front, but once again, Yorno has worked his way back into a podium spot. I don't know how he does it, but no matter what seems to happen to him in a race, he seems to be able to get back on the podium. He could honestly, at this point, he could just retire from the next race and he'll still finish on the podium by the looks of things.
Yeah, he could start the race P20 and actually still finish inside the top 5, because this is incredible. No matter what happens to this man, he just keeps coming back and fighting and getting good points finishes, and now running in P3. It's just incredible to see, because I think this is probably 3 races in a row now where he was outside the top 10 after a couple of laps, and he really fought back and had the pace to make the overtake stick and finish on the podium.
Absolutely, yeah, it's working well for him so far. He's actually continuing to extend his gap over Mark. So Mark running in 4th at the moment on the medium tyres. It almost looks like the medium tyres are starting to go off as Hardy sets the fastest lap of the race at 36.2. Just a shame really that he started on the mediums, because he has got good pace in that car. And he is coming back to maybe pass Mark on track, but I don't think it will stick after the race is finished. But yeah, Mark, on those medium tyres, his medium tyres are only 10 laps old, so they're not really at the end of their life. Well, they're not close to the end of their life at the moment yet, but he's losing pace to Yorno. Just shows that maybe... It just goes to show really that Yorno especially is kind of at the moment, I hate to say it this early in the season, but Yorno is kind of the clear favourite at this point, just based on the pace that he's shown.
Yeah, based on the pace and consistency he has, it's not a bad shout for him to be maybe a title favourite this season.
Absolutely, yeah, with the pace he's shown and how he's been able to come back from poor starts to races, how he's been able to work his way back to the front. Even on 18 lap old hard tyres, he has better pace than pretty much everyone behind him on the track. Further down the field, Tun meanwhile is trying to make a move stick on YHYY for 6th place. Let's see whether Tun can get this move done. Tun has absolutely no ERS at all, so this is all based on pure straight line speed, and Tun's trying to go round the outside of YHYY at the hairpin. YHYY gives him the space and Tun makes the corner stick. He's going to drive clean around the outside on those fresh set of soft tyres. He's up into 6th place, but he's got a 9-second gap to Hardy in front. That looks like the max that Tun's going to get out of this one. And it's a shame for Tun, because his teammate running the alternate strategy could get a podium out of this race. And Tun is now down in 6th, languishing in 6th with obviously starting on the hard tyres. Just goes to show that starting on the hard tyres around here just isn't the best strategy at all.
Yeah, imagine if he actually started on the medium tyres, he could have kept with B Morgan and maybe had a chance at the podium as well. Because I don't think Tun is that much slower than B Morgan, and yeah, those hard tyres really cost him a lot of time during his first stint.
Absolutely. We've got a yellow flag in sector 2. I think that's for Bree. Bree's having a disastrous race. Yeah, he's hit the wall coming out of the hairpin, so he's spun and hit the wall. Bree's race has gone from bad to worse to utterly horrible at the moment, running in 12th place, well off the back of the guys in front. Jay Luke's running in 11th. Danny Boy, after that spin earlier on, he's currently running in the bottom end of the top 10 on the fresh set of medium tyres. Both of these guys trying to chase down Storm for 9th place. Storm, we haven't mentioned him really since the start. He's done a good job. Obviously the pit strategy hasn't really worked out for him in the end. He's ended up behind a lot of people who pitted later than him. So running in 9th though, it's still a good result for him. It was actually just clips the wall there. I think he got away with it, but still, despite struggling so much this week to try and find the right balance around Vietnam, it's good to see him still in the points and doing a decent job.
Yeah, of course, Vietnam is an incredibly difficult track to drive around. Like, a lot of people in the league racing community hate this track, and to be honest, it's mentality-wise, it's incredibly difficult. When you don't have the pace, you don't like the track, you really don't want to race, and still being in P9 and having that mental fortitude, just keep going no matter what happens. I have to respect it for Storm.
Absolutely, yeah, respect it from Storm, and especially from Bree as well. Bree is still going in this race. Bless his heart, he's had a horrible race. He's actually just been lapped by J. Cole, so I think he'll be happy that this race is finishing a lap earlier at this point for him. But he's continuing on and he's still at least picking a point up, which is exactly what you need to do. You need to pick up the points where you can, and that's where the likes of Pease and Pelly and all that, and Supergamer, when they retired earlier, that's where they lost that opportunity to do so. Looking further up the field as well, once again, keeping an eye on that gap between Yorno and Mark. Yorno has fallen well out of reach here of B Morgan. I think Yorno is just cruising really to the end of this race, trying to hold on to third. Mark is closing in only like a tenth a lap at the moment, so Mark isn't really any threat to Yorno. So if Yorno can keep it out of puncture territory, he's got third secured. Meanwhile, J. Cole has up and gone. He is 7 seconds clear out in front. I mean, obviously this race he wasn't leading at the start, and Pease was leading, but from then on, I think it's fair to say that this has been a pretty dominant performance from J. Cole.
Yeah, incredible performance by J. Cole, of course, and it would have been interesting to see if Hardy could have really challenged him if he didn't stand on the medium tires and actually had his normal race strategy, because I think both of them, at least on paper right now, look very similar.
Yeah, absolutely. They do look very, very similar in pace. Obviously, J. Cole started the best. He's had good pace, but it's just never worked for him. But this is the kickstart to his season. I think J. Cole, a lot of people will know that J. Cole was a bit frustrated with Division 2 last season. He was tipped to be one of the championship frontrunners last season for Division 2, and then his season didn't really get going until we got to Canada when he won his first race of the season, and then his season kind of fell apart from there. But this is kind of what J. Cole needed last season in Division 2. It's starting looks like, obviously don't want to jinx it with 3 laps to go, but it looks like it's starting to come together now for J. Cole.
Yeah, and it's really lovely to see, because he was struggling the first 2 races. At least quality-wise, he was always up there, but race-wise, he probably got caught up in a few lap 1 incidents and stuff like that. It's just good for him that he's probably going to win this race, and yeah, hats off to him, because it's incredibly deserving, because he's 8 seconds ahead now, and it's incredible the pace advantage he has over B Morgan.
Absolutely, yeah. Just looking further down the field, Hardy has now caught Mark. Just goes to show the pace advantage of a fresh set of tyres. Hardy is absolutely flying. He's taken, I think, about 11 seconds out of Mark in the last 6 or so laps. He's now within DRS range. Meanwhile, Storm has fallen behind J-Luke and Danny Boy. They have now caught Storm on those fresh set of tyres, and Storm has got front wing damage on both sides now, unfortunately. So I don't know if they were a bit of rough overtakes really from Danny Boy and J-Luke, but they've worked their way through. Danny Boy's got damage as well, unfortunately. So J-Luke back into 9th place. Hardy, meanwhile, is going to go down the inside of Mark into the hairpin. He's going to actually force Mark completely off the road. Hardy actually misses the corner himself, so I don't think Mark's going to be too pleased with that one. Hardy missed the corner and forced Mark off the road with him. Hardy, obviously, his race is under investigation, so this might not be full position, but Hardy 4th on the road now ahead of Mark, and that's really sealed Mark's deal of whether he could catch Yorno at this point. Yorno's well out in front, well clear, and at this point in the race there is absolutely no battles at all. The only battle is between Danny Boy and Storm to seemingly see who can get to the pits first with the amount of damage they have. Let's see if Storm goes for a move at Danny Boy. Danny Boy moves to the inside for the hairpin. Storm trying to go all the way around the outside on the hard tyres. See whether he can brake late enough. He's very, very late on the brakes. He actually misses the corner though, just because of that front wing damage. He can't quite get the car stopped, and Danny Boy is going to get back up the inside and back into 10th place as they fight their way through the final sector now. 3 laps to go. J. Cole continues to extend his lead out in front. B. Morgan continues to extend his gap over Yorno, and Mark is falling more and more out of touch with the top 3. I think it's fair to say that this race is kind of finished at this point now. We've reached the end of this race, and not really any places are going to change, barring any sort of penalties. But I just want to reiterate again, we obviously talk about Yorno and J. Cole having good races, but B. Morgan, this is exactly the race he needed.
Yeah, this is his strategy, starting on the medium tires, taking those till lap 17 is incredible. And he had actually great pace on those medium tires, to just keep with Mark basically throughout the first stint. And yeah, on the soft tires, he isn't as fast as J. Cole, which is unfortunate to see. But still, finishing P2 after starting P11 is incredible.
Absolutely, yeah, it is incredible to see them. You see him right at the front of the field, and yeah, taking those medium tyres 17 laps. I was shocked that he was going to take them that far. I was assuming he was going to put the hard tyres on, but he didn't in the end. And he's ended up in 2nd place because of that alternate strategy, and he made it work, so good from him. From 11th on the grid, that is a brilliant result from B. Morgan to get 2nd place. It's been a bit of a race of attrition today, and we've had basically the 2 people that haven't had compromised races are the 2 people at the front of the field at the moment. Yorno, even with a compromised race, is still running in 3rd. He is being caught by Hardy, but look at Mark now. Mark has lost pace completely. I wonder whether those mediums have reached into their life. They're only on 14 laps, but he's completely dropped off the back of Yorno now. He's well over 10 seconds off of the McLaren now.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued to know what Jorno's tire wear is like. So for the first time I'm ever gonna say this, where are the AWS graphics when you need them?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, you need them now, don't we? We need to find out exactly what Jorno's tyre wear is, because if he's able to take these hard tyres from... He pitted at the end of lap 2 in this race, and he hasn't pitted since, which is... I know it says he's on 23 lap old tyres, but that isn't quite the case. I think the graphics are a little bit skew-if on our end. Not surprised by that one. But yeah, Jorno pitted at the end of lap 2 at the end of the virtual safety car for Damon's crash, and he's running in third on 25 lap old hard tyres, and he's still got 2 laps to go in this race. If you can get those to the end, that is an incredible performance.
Yeah, as we said in the earlier part of the race, we didn't think it was possible for him to make it to the end, and we still don't know actually, because it's just so close, and I'm pretty sure those tires are on their last legs right now, and he's trying to limp home, bring the car back in P3. But yeah, incredible race, incredible pace on those hard tires as well, making moves on Hardy and Stumpy, I believe, who were on the medium tires at the time. So even on the hard tires, he had a great pace on them.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, he really did, didn't he? Like you say, the people around him, the likes of Hardy. Hardy was on pole by a country mile, and on the medium tyres, he couldn't get moved stuck, and Jorno would just turn up to the back of a queue of cars and just pass them all immediately and get on with it, which is what he's done pretty much all season so far. We're on to the last lap of the race. This race obviously a little bit delayed, unfortunately, with the start that we had, but we are now on to the final lap. J. Cole now leads by nearly 10 seconds. He's flown away out front. B. Morgan's done a great job, but he's just not been in the same class as J. Cole today. The strategy worked out in the end for him, but he's not going to be close to winning this one. Jorno still running in third. Mark, actually, I don't know if Mark has a problem, because he is being caught so quickly by Tun behind. Tun has taken at least 3 seconds out of him in the last lap, and if Mark is within puncture territory, he could fall behind Tun here. I don't know what penalties are like for either of those two drivers either, but Tun is coming at Mark so quickly, and on the final lap, Mark is possibly at risk of losing 5th place here.
Yeah, because Tun is actually gaining quite a lot of time on him. Whereas, of course, he's also on old soft tires, so the pace difference probably won't be as big as it was a few laps before this. But yeah, Mark is really struggling on those very old medium tires.
Absolutely, yeah, really starting to struggle on those tyres. It looks like he might just be safe, but on that previous lap he was well off the pace. I don't know if he made a mistake or something, but he dropped a lot of time, and he's now nearly 15 seconds behind Jorno at this point. He's dropped well back. But here we go then into the penultimate corner for J. Cole. It's been a dominant race for him in the end. He had a lot of competition at the start. Hardy obviously went on the wrong tyres, and Pease crashed out early in the race, but J. Cole is going to cross the line. He's going to get his first race win of the season, a dominant race win in the end. He takes the race win here at Vietnam. Round 3 of the season goes his way. B. Morgan's going to be coming around the final corner now on an audacious alternate strategy. He's going to come through from 11th on the grid to pick up P2. Great result from him. Both of these guys' championships are now pretty much underway here. Jorno, 3rd race in a row, 3rd podium after a compromised early race. He comes across the line in 3rd. Hardy will be 4th, but that race will probably be under review for him. Mark's going to come across the line in 5th. He is being caught massively by Tun and YHYY, but he's going to hold on for 5th for the time being. That should be 4th when the race obviously the investigation is finished with Hardy. He comes across the line in 5th. Tun in 6th ahead of YHYY in 7th in the end. We've just got a little bit of a gap now, waiting for Stumpy after struggling so much on the medium tyres at the start. He's going to make up for it, and he's going to capitalise on other people's mistakes. He's going to cross the line in the other Alfa Romeo, and he's going to be in 8th place. There he goes, he crosses the line in 8th place. J-Luke will be 9th. He's on the soft tyres at the end. Again, struggling for pace in this race and getting damage early on. Danny Boy and TTG Storm both pitted after their damage late in the race. Danny Boy is going to come through. Actually, no, Danny Boy didn't pit in the end. Danny Boy stayed out with that front wing damage, and he's just going to hold on to P10. Storm couldn't catch him in time. Breeze already finished the race a lap down in 12th place. He'll be happy that this race is over. Danny Boy comes around the final corner and nearly hits the wall once again. He crosses the line in 10th place. Storm will come around the final corner now, and he will pick up 11th place and 2 points for his troubles today. But that is the end of the Vietnam race, and once again, like we said earlier on, dominant race from J. Cole in the end.
Yeah, who's going to be your driver of the day, Aiden?
Oh god, drive of the day. I've got to give it to J. Cole, honestly. I think B. Morgan did a great job, but J. Cole was just so clean and so consistent, so precise, and just perfect the whole way through. Not a single mistake from J. Cole that entire race, and a crucial overtake on B. Morgan and Jorno when it counted, and he's ended up with a race win. That's why he's going to take my driver of the day.
It's hard to fight him for driver of the day, because he had a brilliant race, but I think I'm going to give it to B. Morgan, because making the alternate strategy work on this game is incredibly difficult, especially with the pace difference, traffic and all that, and I think I'm going to give it to B. Morgan.
Absolutely, yeah. So we'll run you through the final order once again just before we finish the stream today. It's J. Cole that wins ahead of B. Morgan, Yorno in third, once again ahead of Hardy in fourth, Mark in fifth ahead of Ton, YHYY, Stumpy, J. Luke, Danny Boy rounds off the top 10 ahead of Storm and Bree, the only other finishers in this race. All top 12 obviously get points in this one, so Bree will be the final points finisher. Peas did not finish, neither did Caesar, Damon, Pelly and Supergamer. TDB, 5 big names that did not finish this race that all could have battled for top 5 places in this one, could not finish. And just goes to show that even if you do have a bad race, finishing it is key, because a lot of people here were compromised and still ended up with good results.
Yeah, Total Peas, he could have still he would have still finished inside the points after his mistake. Yeah, congrats to everyone for finishing the race and getting points.
Absolutely, yeah, and that is where we're going to round off the stream today. Me and Dylan have got to go. We've got to get to our Division 2 race. We've delayed them by 15 minutes already because of obviously our delayed start, so they're probably not too happy with us. So we're going to head off and get ready for the Division 2 race. Tune in for Division 2 and Division 5. Division 5 will be on now as well, and then tune in again next week for round 4 of the Championship at another new track for the season. That is Zandvoort. But from myself and Dylan, thank you everyone for joining in the comms, in the commentary, in the comment section as well, watching the stream, and we will see you again this time next week. Goodbye.